Robert Kiyosaki consistently says that the serious mix-up is such huge numbers of individuals trust it's basic to spare. That is crazy, Kiyosaki clarifies, and the explanation that is silly is that what happened in 1971 is critical. In 1971 the US dollar quit being cash. In 1971 the US dollar turned into cash. What's more, what that implied is Richard Nixon in 1971 took us off the best quality level. That resembles giving a heavy drinker free rein to the bar, or it resembles giving someone who can't control their spending boundless charge cards. What's going on is all the savers today are failures. You know, the issue with 1971 is that the national government continues printing cash. The estimation of your cash props up down. In the event that you notice as the estimation of the dollar goes down, costs go up. They call this swelling. However, what it is the dollar's worth descending. So savers are getting cleared out today. To set aside cash, that isn't the new principle, that is an old guideline. An extremely huge issue for a great many people is to quit utilizing the word spare and utilize the word support. You must support your cash. Fence against misfortunes. That's the reason this thought you're going to advise individuals you have to set aside cash, that is actually an out-of-date thought. Since the idea went outdated in 1971, the US dollar over the most recent couple of years has lost practically 80% of his buying power. This has occurred since the beginning. It happened a great many years prior with the Romans, with the Greeks, with the Germans, with the English, the Japanese, and the Chinese. Each time they've brought in cash into money, something you could print at boundless. Each time that has occurred, the cash has gone to its actual worth, which is zero. I am apprehensive as this monetary instability proceeds. The savers who will work in by the old guidelines of cash are simply going to get cleared out in light of the fact that the buying intensity of their dollar will go down. You can't stay aware of the banks printing cash. That is the old principle of cash, is setting aside cash. Furthermore, the new guideline is a support. The explanation 1971 is such a crucial time, was on the grounds that the US Federal Reserve turned into the bank to the world. They could print as a lot of cash as they needed. Never throughout the entire existence of the world has anyone been permitted to print cash for the remainder of the world. Each time individuals have done this, disorder is broken out. What's more, that is the reason there's disarray on the planet today. In 1913, when the US Federal Reserve Bank was made, they were fundamentally permitted to print cash for the world. Each time that has occurred from the beginning of time, a tyrant has shown up. For instance, in 1933, a man named Adolf Hitler rose to influence when the Weimar Republic was permitted to print as a lot of cash as it needed to do. Furthermore, when Russia's money poured down, a man named Lenin rose to influence. At the point when the Chinese economy separated, Mao Zedong rose. Today we're at that basic point at the present time. One of the reasons for it was in 1933. This thing called the US Federal Reserve was made. They've done an entirely great job of making the rich more extravagant, lamentably, the poor getting less fortunate. With the goal. That's the reason when I conversed with individuals, I truly need them to comprehend the new standards of cash, which truly started to produce results in 1971 when we were permitted to print cash for the remainder of the world. It comprehends that this framework here is making the rich get more extravagant and poor people and white-collar class to get poor. However, above all, the lower white-collar class is nearly getting cleared out. Significant expenses, volatilities in the market, nourishment getting increasingly costly, gas getting progressively costly, investment funds getting cleared out, home estimations going around. Also, the explanation the difficulties have begun again is the US Federal Reserve Bank isn't US, isn't government, and doesn't have any reserve, and isn't a bank. So on the off chance that you get that, at that point you can begin to fence your position as opposed to set aside cash, and that is another standard of cash. This is why banks are the worst place for your money. Get your cash out of the banking framework. Leaving all your cash in a financial balance, that is awful exhortation. I will disclose to you folks why placing the entirety of your cash in the bank is an insured approach to lose cash due to swelling. So most importantly, what precisely is swelling? The meaning of expansion is a general increment in costs and fall in the buying estimation of cash after some time. So after some time, your cash is useless to the extent purchasing power. An ideal model. How about we take a gander at the expense of bread in 1930 contrasted with the expense of bread today? By and large, you're paying $2.50 for that equivalent portion of bread. So the buying estimation of your cash diminished fundamentally from 1930 to 2019. I need you to comprehend. Your folks are not purposefully offering you terrible guidance by instructing you to set aside cash in the financial balance. They are simply befuddled on the grounds that this is a procedure that worked for them. Since during the 1980s, things were altogether different. I will clarify why that is at the present time. So this isn't really terrible guidance for the 1980s. It worked for them, yet it's not going to work for you. So for this model, we are discussing a CD or a certificate of deposit. Basically, you store your cash, you're not ready to contact it for a specific number of years, and subsequently, you acquire an insured pace of return. In 1984, the normal yield on a multi-year CD, where you store your cash for a long time, and you can't contact that cash, was 12.06% every year. In 2016, the normal profit for a 5-year certificate of deposit was 0.86%. From 1984 to 1988, the normal pace of swelling was 3.5%. Furthermore, since 2000, the normal pace of expansion has been 2.2%. So we should feel free to figure it out on this. If you had $100,000 toward the finish of 1983, by 1988, because of the expansion, that $100,000 would have the proportionate purchasing intensity of $118,769. Presently, suppose you took those $100,000 and put it in a multi-year CD toward the start of 1984. $100,000 would have been worth $176,707 5 years after the fact. So for that multi-year CD, you made $76,707, however you outpaced expansion by $57,938. That is the reason your folks offer you this guidance. Since it worked for them, however, it's not going to work for you. I'm going to give you why. $100,000 in 2016, in view of that 2.2% normal pace of swelling since 2000, is the equal purchasing intensity of approximately $111,495 in the year 2021. Presently, in the event that you put resources into one of those CDs with a 0.86% return, $100,000 of every 2016 will be $104,375 in 2021. Expansion outpaced you by $7,120. In any case, suppose you didn't place your cash in a CD, in light of the fact that the vast majority don't. What a great many people do is they leave their cash in a checking or a bank account. The normal profit for a financial record is 0.05%. So 100,000 out of 2016 at 0.05% every year, would be $100,250 by 2021. So while apparently you made $250, you really lost $11,245 since expansion outpaced you. I have news for you. The 1980s are finished. At any rate, how might you outpace expansion? How might you abstain from losing the purchasing influence of your cash? The appropriate response is to contribute. So I just wanna give you one way that you could contribute, and this is a preservationist way. So the S&P 500 is a decent method to follow the normal returns of the financial exchange. Furthermore, you can put straightforwardly in a store that tracks the S&P 500 also. So I know many individuals out there will make statements like the financial exchange is a losing game, or everybody loses cash in the securities exchange. However, just to give you that is mistaken, from 1928 to 2016, the S&P 500 index had a productive year 74% of the time. Presently, there might be transient adjustments where you are down on your cash, however you don't sell. You simply hang tight, and you keep contributing. The best methodology when you're contributing is dollar cost averaging. So in the event that you needed to put resources into the S&P 500 index on the off chance that you were putting resources into a reserve that followed the S&P 500, you may store a similar sum each and every month into a store that tracks the S&P 500. So by then, you're purchasing shares at a significant expense, getting them at a low cost, and getting them in the center. Along these lines, thus, this brings down your normal cost paid per share. Since 1928, the S&P 500 has returned by and large, 9.8% every year. The best way to outpace swelling is to contribute. What's more, at this point, I trust you comprehend that keeping your cash in the bank in a financial records, in an investment account, in a CD, is an insured approach to lose your cash. So you have to ensure you're planning something for outpace expansion. Also, probably the most ideal approaches to do this is putting resources into an aloof record support. I realize individuals are going to be doubtful of that 9.8% profit since that is based for just about 90 years of information. So I want to give you a genuine model, so we're going to investigate swelling since 2000, and the arrival of the S&P 500 index since 2000, so since 2000, expansion has found the middle value of 2.2% every year, as we said prior. So we should investigate the presentation of the S&P 500 index. So on January 1, 2000, the S&P 500 was at 1,425.59, and on January 1, 2017, precisely 17 years after the fact, the S&P 500 was at 2,275.12. So over those 17 years, we saw a 59.5% profit for the S&P 500 index. So on the off chance that you had dumped $100,000 into a store following the S&P 500 index in 2000, you would have $159,500 as of the start of 2017. So you outpaced swelling by $14,735. Envision how a lot of cash you would have in the event that you had quite recently left your cash in the bank winning a little loan cost. You need to understand that placing your cash in the bank is an insured approach to lose cash. Placing cash in the financial balance is an insured approach to lose cash. It is something that individuals don't comprehend in light of the fact that your folks are attempting to support you. Yet, tragically, they're offering you awful guidance by instructing you to leave your cash in the bank. It's an insured approach to lose cash, since you are never going to stay aware of the pace of expansion, with what the bank pays in investment funds and financial records. Give a man a weapon, and he can loot a bank. Give a man a bank, and he can loot the world. This was global economics. If you don't mind, like, share and subscribe. Much thanks to you.